Oh, where's the...
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
We're under arrest. Look, I'm under what? Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Get your hand off my penis! This is the bloke who got me on the penis before. What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
Так вот, не первый раз я вам говорю, что вы провалились.
Well, now for the first time, I can tell you that you're a disaster.
So they said they were walking out the press conference. I said, no, I said, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said, I said, call him. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset.
I got a new strap-on harness today. I can't wait to put it on you. It will fit my favorite dildo perfectly. You're going to look so hot.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Welcome to Stateside Safari episode 4. I'm here with my dear friend Carmen Smith-Studer. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I love that you call me your good friend. I think it's so cool that we can meet people the way we do and
I know.
never have been in their presence, but really love them.
Yeah, and I get this. I had this when we obviously we met during the whole Eliza Blue e-girl drama, which
Mhm.
was kind of horrifying at the time to watch as someone who was sort of previously friendly with her. And but it just turned out to be such a blessing because there were so many. At least, I mean, I've lost count. There's 30 people that come to mind that I could think of that I think, well, I really want to get to know them a lot better. And you're certainly right at the top of the list.
Thank
So
you. I was
I'm
so
really
touched by your story and so frustrated because I think that's one of the things that's been the hardest to deal with since this all began 3 years ago, March 2020, was there's so many things that many of us see so clearly, and we're literally trying to share with people, like, please see this psyop, please see this, like, this is not real, don't walk off this cliff. And then here we are
Mm.
years later, and there's so much damage.
Well, there's damage. It seems to, I don't know, like it seems like the weird crazy train of life is speeding up in all directions. Like there's so much going on, and then when you talk about psyops, I actually have a couple of interesting things pulled up here with regards to that because I'm hearing a lot of the word MK Ultra and stuff like that going about.
Awesome. I
And
love that. I just did a 6-part series on the keys to the monarch programming with a lady who was massively programmed.
I think I might have actually seen some parts of that, and I didn't get into it too much
Yeah.
because
It's
I've got
intense.
lots of stuff going on, but I have heard. That's not the first time I've heard that before. I can't remember if I was watching you or if I was watching. I've certainly heard that term. What would you
Sure.
call it again?
And the Monarch programming. So it's MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Also began with Operation Paperclip and all of the crazy Nazi scientists that came over. it's
Yeah.
it's so
And
bizarre. You can't even believe it's real.
and most people don't. And for those who don't understand what MK Ultra is, it is a CIA program that was, I believe it started in the 1950s, possibly sooner than that. However, in the 1970s, Congress was able to uncover a very select few pieces of evidence. It was subpoenaed, but it was destroyed nonetheless
There was a
illegally.
fire. That's from what I hear.
Really? Is
Or
that the
it's something. It
excuse?
was either a fire or a flood, something like that.
Right. Because there was some damning pieces of evidence that came out, and I believe didn't the U.S. government have to apologize for it?
Eventually.
Yeah. So they've apologized for it and acknowledged doing it, and they've promised to stop doing it back in the 70s. But what the program actually was actually it was research and development into controlling people's minds. So it's mind control essentially, and we can see kind of all sorts of sophisticated forms of it within. It's becoming very obvious on terrestrial broadcast media, like all of that sort of like mainstream media. It's pretty obvious now that that is just all sort of a narrative that's been pushed from the top. But it's hiding out in inconspicuous places too, like on Twitter and all throughout social media. It's in the alternate media places like YouTube and Rumble as well. So like people like Kanye and all that, even the cancelled one, I think there's a lot more of it at the moment than people realize. And I actually want to skip actually to a little
Let's
tweet
do it.
that
I want to see it.
my friend Game Tech Politics. Now he's been making all sorts of crazy predictions, but he's the guy that says, I'm the one that says the crazy stuff so you don't have to.
That's so nice of him. But if
He's a very
we
guy. He was
too,
my
right?
very first guest. You were supposed to be my first guest, but I stuffed up the whole thing, so I apologize for
No,
that.
that's good. It worked
But
out
Game,
fine.
it did. It did. And I think you were busy that day anyway. I think it was your dad's birthday, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Something like
I
that.
don't remember. There was something going on. Was that in July? That's when my dad's birthday
Yeah,
is.
probably.
Yeah.
But my friend here has been going on about, let me just share this. And now he posted this. He's been posting this over and over, but this the October 19th, so 10 days ago. Did you know MK Ultra has been activated unknowingly on participants? There are over 10,000 MK Ultra victims in the US alone. We're about to see the fruition of that operation this week and further. Watch the news closely. So that was on October the 19th.
Yeah,
Now,
and Cheryl, the woman that I had, her name is Cheryl Beck. If anyone wants to see that playlist, it's so good. And she estimates there's 30 million people globally.
wow.
Yeah, she's
It's
like,
a
it's been
lot.
happening in churches. It's been happening in, really high end, Christian schools. It's been happening in lots of different, Mormon schools.
I can imagine a lot of the religions would be targeted
Mhm.
because
It's a perfect shield.
it's a threat. It's a threat to the I guess if you want to zoom out, my theory is that there is a global government effort. There is actually a global government anyway. It just hasn't really got its fingers in everyone. But it's what things that are a big threat to it. And George Orwell wrote about this in 1984. He said, allegiance to the state is everything. And if you have allegiance to anything else or anyone else, it gets in the way of that allegiance to the state. So that includes your partners, your God, your everything. And so, of course, they're going to target religious leaders and the parishioners and all of the people that are, So it's kind of horrifying because I know also there's a lot of I'm not religious in the sense of I don't have a specific denomination of religion that I follow, but I'm certainly no atheist. I think I was back in the day, but I've come to realize that that's kind of short-sighted. That's a very short-sighted way of thinking and feeling. So,
Well, especially when you see how nasty and unclean these spirits are. They're so counter-human, when they get into weird stuff like, peeing and having feces in beds, with
yeah.
Amber Heard, and you're just like, that is not normal.
How do you get that twisted? Yeah, I mean, you can be angry, but how do you get so weird like that? Because there's a lot of weirdness. And it's oozing out of Hollywood, which I've just so kept away from forever now. Like, I'm just so with the whole Disney strike
It's
and
so
not the
over
Disney
it
strike,
all.
the writers' strike and all of that, I
Writers'
was thinking, "Don't
SAG
come back.
strike.
We don't need you." Like, the world was really better off without you there. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a great back catalog of Disney and all
Well,
that
and
sort of stuff when I was a
there's
kid,
so
but
many amazing actors that aren't a part of that,
but
really
they don't
amazing
get to
people.
talk.
But I wanna hear more about you, changing or shifting from being atheist to believing something's going on. What changed it?
Do you know, I think that because there wasn't enough. I didn't find enough meaning in life. I wasn't finding any meaning in life, and then there was, of course, it generally takes a tragedy to sort of kick you into gear. So I lost my nan. Actually, I've got her up here. That's my nan there. She passed away in 2015. She was very close to me. She was like my mom. And I think it was kind of wanting to believe at the beginning. And then after a while, I started just feeling like she was with me. You know what I mean? Like, I felt that there were certainly moments that she was with me when I needed her to be there. I'd ask her to be there, and I can't explain it. I don't know how to put it into words. I'm not
Right.
great at explaining these sorts of things because I
Yeah.
don't really. But I just sort of definitely went from there cannot be nothing else.
Right.
There
Yeah.
cannot be nothing after this. Like, I just sort of feel this. I don't know. Like, I'll tell you a real quick story. Like, the morning she died, and before I even knew about it, there was this. It sounds like a silly story now that I say it back, but I just feel like it was something. Like, I'm convinced it was her. Um, about an hour before I got the message that she had passed, I was living in Perth, and my family about 400 kilometers away from where my family was, and I was walking back into my apartment building. I'd done an all-nighter. It was just like the peak of dawn, and actually that was her name, Dawn. And it was right at the peak of dawn, and I was just and I hadn't slept the night before, and I saw this giant strobe of light just streak across the sky and disappear within a moment.
So
And
cool.
I just thought, what was that? Like, did I see something, or am I just like, because when you're awake for quite a while, you sort of have visual hallucinations, sort of not like full on, but
Right,
just sort of
right,
little flickers like that.
right.
I just kind of put it down to that. And then when I got upstairs, it was like within the half hour or something, I got the message that Nan had died. And then shortly after that, I found the news on the thing that was a meteor. That was a meteor that had crashed just a few kilometers away from me, a tiny, tiny piece of it,
So you
because I didn't like
definitely
to
saw
keep trace. And
it.
I
You
managed
were
to see
correct.
yeah, it was there was a real thing, there was a real celestial event, and the odds of me looking
Right.
up, and because I'd only seen it when I just looked up. I know this sounds like a silly story, but I just sort of I just kinda was, 'cause I'm always staring at the ground or at my phone when you walk in. I was in the middle of the city, and I looked up, and I see this flash of thing, And for anyone to have caught that with their naked eye, it was later broadcast on the TV. Someone had filmed it, but for someone to have actually seen it with their naked eye, it's quite an extraordinary thing, especially when they're already mostly looking at the ground. And I just sort of feel like, oh my God, I feel like that was Nan saying goodbye, like, or that I'm here, and then because I always look to the stars when I see her, when I want to like speak to her and stuff.
Right.
But
Right.
and
Like
my
Simba.
mother, yep, like Simba, yeah, exactly. And my mom's always been quite religious. She's sort of been in and out with her faith over the years, but like
Sure.
since she was a young child, she's always been religious. I was kind of turned off by religion as a child. I think maybe because there were a lot of people around that, not so much my mother, but there are some other people that were very, very intense. They would scare us with stuff like,
Going to hell.
and this the kind of the descriptions of hell as well. They would just sort of like, oh, you know how you burn all your skin off, and once that's happened, it'll just grow back so it can keep burning off. And I'm like, this is horrible. I'm 5. You shouldn't be telling me this stuff. But and then like all the films of that's my reminder to cut the Twitter feed because I hate Twitter. So I'm actually going to remove this off Twitter. But
That's
what
a
was I
good
saying?
idea because I would have been like you. I would have forgotten about it.
Yeah, I mean, it might not actually work, but
And so
let's
does it
see.
work pretty good? I've thought about doing it. I've never done it. And I've almost done it. Then I'm like, I don't know. But
I'm
it just
gonna say
runs the
everyone.
same?
It runs the same, but no one if anyone's chatting there, I can't see them.
Right.
And to be honest, no one watches it. I've checked the
Right.
analytics,
Right.
and no one watches it. So what I'm gonna do now is, if anyone is watching on Twitter, please find me on YouTube at Daniel Clancy, and I'll see you there. And okay, so now we've cut Twitter out because I hate that platform. It's just really been annoying to me. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
finding
could
that
tell.
only
And it seems like it's gotten worse lately.
yeah, it is getting worse, and it's kind of gives me real Mark of the Beast vibes. See, that's the other thing. Like a lot of this other stuff that's in the Bibles and other, not just the whole like the King James Bible, like in many different theological texts, is sort of like I think they're kind of describing something that happened here.
Oh, for
I
sure.
can't really, you know what I mean? Like these stories are so transcendent beyond through millennia that it's just like for all of these different cultures to have
Similar.
converged on that similar thing, it's like there's something under this. There's something beneath this. And I don't claim to know how to interpret it, and I don't even really try too much because like it's obviously like thousands of years old, and it really is, to me, I feel like religion is the same question for everyone. It's kind of like, why? That's the question. Or for me, that's how I would describe it. It'd be like all religions, really, all organized religions that I see are all trying to reach the answer of why or what. It's kind of like, it's really just like, what's after this? Why are we here? Now, they may have all come to different places on what that why is or what why could be. But I think it's a question that really everyone has. Even people who claim to not be religious, they still want to know what it's all about. They still want to seek out meaning in their life. And I just happen to think that all the stuff that goes on here goes somewhere. It doesn't get lost. It's not all
There's
lost.
no end.
at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
I mean, like I can't know that for sure, but I feel like I don't know, like this whole story of life, that it's been amazing, and for it to just go nowhere, it seems just ridiculous to me. I feel
Yeah,
like it's
I agree.
stored somewhere and it counts for something. So
Yeah, when I was little even, I remember sitting down and just being in awe of a tree one day, and I was singing to it. I mean, I had to be like 6 or 7 years old, And I was in this space that it was just so like connected. And I hadn't learned that at church, and my parents weren't religious. And it was just me connecting with what I thought was really amazing and really beautiful about the world, you know?
Yep.
And I miss those days, and I work hard to remove the crazy world from my consciousness because I prefer that space of loving and appreciating the tiniest things, the raindrops, the
Yep.
leaves falling, the air in your face, things like that, instead of getting caught up in, the divided states.
Which they are right now, aren't they? I mean, they're sort of like more divided than ever. And I know, like I know you say you try to keep out of the drama. I'm sort of swimming in it at the moment. Like, I've started this show because I felt like the reason I want to start the show to get to know people, but also like my tweets are getting so long. I've got so much to say about stuff. But then
Right.
when it comes to actually going live, I sort of clamp up and go, oh, I don't know if my opinions are really worth saying here. But
It is. It's one of the things that I love so much about when I first saw your video that you did, expressing your frustration with Eliza. I thought, he is so eloquent. He is so speaking from the heart. He is completely raw, and it was just magnificent, and I loved it, and I was highly encouraging you to just get out there and speak, because there's just not enough people that'll do it. Everyone's so intimidated.
yeah, it is, and I can because like I've actually done public speaking before, not like as a full-time thing, but I've emceed a few events.
Mhm.
I've done a few things on the radio, and
Right.
but this is just sort of like for whatever reason, this is so intimidating. It's way out of my comfort zone for whatever reason. I thought it was going to be quite easy, but
Mhm.
I'm still excited to be doing it though, because it's new and challenging. And one thing I want to learn how to do is how other people manage to do solo live streams without being so awkward. Because like I could be really putting out a lot of content here, but
Right,
I'm
if you didn't
just
have to
sort of
schedule people.
yeah, I'm kind of afraid of myself at the moment, but
Right.
I'm working at getting over that.
Well, you
So
could always do, pre-recorded and do a little editing and then throw them out there just to get comfortable with it, if that
so I
would
did a
help.
couple of yeah, I did a couple of them, but I hadn't hadn't scripted or planned them. I was just like, I'm gonna start reading this thing and hit record and just see
Right.
what happens and then
How'd you
put it
do?
up.
How'd you do? That's a good test. Did you
Yeah,
do all
yeah.
right?
So I mean, it wasn't the worst. They're
Yeah.
still up there. I haven't taken them down yet. So,
Yeah.
it's just really yeah, I think it's just get case of just I need to put the content down and get more used to doing it.
All right, so
Um,
tell me how you came up with the name Stateside Safari. I love it.
well,
I mean, here
it's
you are
kinda
in
like
Australia, and you're more interested and know more about my country than I do.
well, I love the United States, and I always have loved the United States since I was a child, and I think a lot of that's down to a lot of your culture is exported to our country.
Mhm,
All of our television throughout the 90s was either American or British.
mhm.
And I adore Britain as well, but it's like I just have no will to go there. I'm already part of a Commonwealth nation. I just don't agree with how they're set up.
Right.
I really the one thing about the United States, and a lot of Australians make fun of me for saying this, but
Mhm.
it's true. You guys really are the beacon of freedom of the world. You set the standard for that,
Which is
and
bad lately.
it's it is, but you regardless, you're still the beacon. Like you guys have you and I know it's been desecrated, but you have your Bill of Rights, you've got your Constitution, and we don't have that stuff. We don't have a written document that allows us to speak freely. It's all implied, and it's all just permitted for now. and they can take it away whenever they want. And we've seen them do that now.
Right, especially
And we
recently.
Yeah, and we've seen how brutally and swiftly they've done that. And that for me was just like, I didn't need any more convincing that I wanted to come to the United States. I really do want to come to the United States one day. Problem right now is I've got a few health issues that I'm trying to get sorted out, and it's also extremely hard to migrate legally
Yeah.
to the country. But I entered the green card lottery. I enter every
Nice.
year.
That's
So I
great.
just, if it's
Can't
just
you get a work visa too? Because I know
yeah, I
we
can get
helped one of our friends that was a Canadian actor get a visa to work here.
Yeah, so that were H-1B visa, I think they're called.
I don't remember. I
I
just
think that's
remember we helped
yeah, I
fund
think
the
I
lawyer so
believe
that he could get it.
right, okay. So I think there's I believe they're called H-1B visas,
Mhm.
and that's something that, again, I need to look into, but it was sort of because I had
It's short term
I
though. I think it's like 3 years or something like that. It's not, and you have
yeah.
to renew it or you have to keep working.
I mean,
It's
that's
kinda,
fine.
yeah, it's
That's
kinda
fine.
complex.
I think what I wanna do is, like, obviously start by just doing a long holiday there and then,
Mhm.
because there's so many people there I want to meet in person now,
Mhm.
and so many places I wanna see. Unfortunately, a lot of places I did wanna see have sort of gone downhill, like New York and
I
LA.
know.
Is there kind of places that I almost would not visit now.
It's
Do you know
wild.
what I mean?
I used to take my daughter to pilot season every spring, basically, like, it was like, January, February-ish, and we would stay till April, May, and she would go on auditions all week, and we just had a great time. It was so much fun. You could not pay me to do that now, and I have made so many friends there, and they'll literally send me pictures. There's tents all over the roads, like, they're in the sidewalk areas, in really nice areas of town.
Yeah. Yeah, well, up in Beverly Hills, you can see it on YouTube. People are putting out, like, all these rich young kids are putting out videos on YouTube, and all you can hear in the background is sirens and fights and gunshots, and so I thought you were a gun safe city. Apparently not. So now we've got all this talk, like, before bodies are even cold, about gun control, and I'm thinking, "Oh, this just feels like a setup." I have to acknowledge our my friend Daniel. Is it Daniel Rood or Daniel Rood? I was thinking about this last night. Um, he's a friend of the channel, but I
Oh, hi,
can't.
Daniel.
Is that? Can you let me know how to pronounce that, Daniel? Because I think I've been calling you Daniel Rood, and I'm not sure if that is it. That's
It
great,
looks
but
like that, Daniel Rood.
it could be Rood,
Rood.
like hood.
Yeah.
See, like the double. 'Cause if it was
Yeah, he
Rood, I
said
would
rude.
kind of
He said
imagine an
rude.
E.
I just saw
Oh,
the
it is Rood. Okay, great. Excellent. Brilliant.
That's
There it is,
awesome.
rude. Is he saying that I'm being rude or he
He didn't specify.
yeah, we'll go with it.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
sorry, I just thought because I realized the
Yeah, and then New
comments were there and
York, just, especially in the last few weeks, has gotten even more intense, um,
yeah,
since all the Armageddon talk.
right? And I was trying to think of a title, and I thought, I don't know, Carmen might not like this title.
Oh,
I
I'm so
I
easygoing. I
I
literally have
know,
no fire, no fire.
I know, I just didn't wanna make you feel uncomfortable, and I just thought, "Well, everyone's talking about it," and
It's your
I
show,
can't
man.
think
You
of
get to do
anything
what
else.
you want.
Well, it was 2 in the morning this morning when I think I made that
Yeah, what time
because
is it there
I
now?
didn't know what to do. Sorry?
What time is it there now?
It's 11:30 AM
Oh, okay.
on Sunday.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm always, like, between 12 and 16 hours ahead. So, well, I'd love to be in time because then I could sort of enjoy the night times a bit, and then, like, because I feel like I'd be less stressed at
Mhm,
night doing this. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like, because that's when you're at your chill
Yeah.
everything
I
just feels
I
chill.
prefer doing it in the afternoon, not in the morning, yeah.
Yeah, see, because like with this right now, to keep in line with the United States, and it's kind of my only option really, unless I'm doing solo streams, um, I have to get up and just do it right away. And so it's
Mhm.
sort of like, that's all right. It's fine. I'm getting used to it. But it's just it's out of my comfort. Like usually in the first thing in the morning, I'd roll out of bed and get a coffee and then just sort of like stare at nature for a little bit and then just sort of like before I get into the screen and stuff. But anyway,
Right.
um,
So do
where
you
were we
work
at?
from home?
Yeah, well, at the moment I kind of do. Like
Okay.
throughout COVID, I was working from home the whole time.
Right.
Um, and I never really I went back to the office for like a couple of weeks,
Mhm.
and then I ended up having to leave that job because my mum was sick and she had a her house got destroyed in a um, natural disaster, and that was during the lockdowns when I couldn't go over there. But I was trying to sort out a bunch of legal stuff for her, and then since then I've just sort of been like doing bits of contracts and stuff here, but that's it. Like I'm trying to I've really fallen like I don't know if I could go back into the office world at this point. Like having sat out of it for a number of years now, because I was in Cube Land for 17 years, just working for the man, and it's fine. Like I had a good job and all. I was a draftsman, and so it earns good money, and it's fairly like back. It's as far as like you don't have to go out into the rain and do like hard labor and stuff. But
Sure.
I don't know. The corporate world really rubs me the wrong way. I'm always the person that says the wrong thing at the wrong time, and I'm not about kissing ass. Like I don't care who you are. I treat you as you come. Like it's
Yeah.
just yeah. If you deserve
Yeah.
respect, I give it. If not, it tends not to come. Like I can't force it. And so yeah, I've been that nail that sticks out quite a bit. I tend to be, and so I get banged down a bit in the corporate world.
Yes. That's
HR is
how
not
I
my
feel about
thing.
the charity world too. The corporate world and the charity world. They've both become a big fat mess. And that's though
Yeah,
how we met, the whole Eliza Blue thing. And then I love
yeah,
how that led to Chrissy Mayer. So when you do come here, you just need to tell me what show of hers you're going to go to, and then we'll try and like make sure Lila and Keanu and everybody's
absolutely.
there. That would be so fun.
And I would like, and speaking of which, Lila, Keanu, Chrissy, I'd love to have them all on my show sometime. Now, obviously, I was trying to get all this set up working properly before I
Yeah.
did that because it was falling apart. But now that I've got the StreamYard, I feel comfortable to be able to do that now. I'm not
Sure.
worrying about, oh, the back end doesn't work and this. I
Right.
haven't even worried about it.
It's so
It's all
easy,
about
and then it
concept.
links straight up to YouTube is my favorite part because I used to use Zoom and you have to do it yourself.
Yes, and it relies on your internet connection, your graphics processor unit, and all of your computer hardware needs to be on point for it to be working right.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it falls apart. And the great thing about StreamYard is that all of the encoding and streaming is done on their servers, on their professional grade servers, so it doesn't drop out. And they do this backup recording system as well, so it's really handy. I can see why there is
Yeah. And so
there
what
like
kinda
it
drafting did you do? Was it, like, architectural or
architectural and structural and a little bit of mechanical and electrical, but mostly architectural and structural.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I originally started as a trainee in Geraldton. It was a tiny little town in remote Western Australia.
Sure.
And oh, we've got another. Sorry, I just got want to acknowledge Troubled Bear S- Steeder. I own a pith helmet. Oh, he's talking about Safari. Yeah, Stateside Safari because it was like it's my American adventure.
Yeah, I
So
love it. I
that
think it's a great
yeah.
idea.
Well, it
I
was kind of like GPT's idea, like ChatGPT. I was like, give me some idea. It wasn't entirely like I had to mash up a few things, but give me
Sure.
some ideas for titles, and it was
I
came up
love
with
it.
Daniel Clancy's Stateside Chronicles or something. I'm like, nah, that's too long. And then I was like, why don't I make it Stateside Safari? It's an
I
adventure,
love
you know.
it. I think it's a great idea. That's why I kinda
I'm
tried
not
to do a
that.
little more Texas flair. I have my huge Texas glass with my huge Texas straw
Texas is one of like the places that I have, out of all of the states that I'd love to
Yeah.
live in, it'd be Texas. I kind of like the idea of Florida as well, but like I've heard that it's just so expensive, it's beyond reach in Florida.
Well,
So,
I think it depends on where you are in Florida, but probably where you'd want to be. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I
definitely.
mean, isn't Dallas and Dallas Fort Worth? That's quite expensive too, isn't it?
I think so, and really, I was surprised because I started looking at Austin, thinking I might move down there with my daughter, and it was considerably less. I was shocked.
Really?
Yeah, because
Because
I
I
thought it
thought it
would
all
be. I
shot
thought it
up.
would be. That's what I thought. But I mean, it's not necessarily in Austin proper because I don't want to live in the city. You might want to. It's probably more
Yeah.
there. But I like to be out a little bit. I'm laughing at Daniel Rood said, I encouraged Eliza Blue to take responsibility and begin a redemption arc. And she responded by blocking me. And let me tell you, she blocked me 2 years before all this happened
Oh,
because
I didn't know that.
because I commented on one of her things when she was talking about working with victims. And all I shared with her is I didn't even say you aren't doing it right or anything mean. All I said was, I have found that when I'm working with people, it really helps to make them aware that they have a victim mentality because it can harm them if they keep
Mm.
it. And I was just, sharing like from one charity, founder to another, right? And I don't even know, did she found hers? I don't even know. But
I'm trying to.
long
Sorry, I'm
story
messing with the
short,
screen.
I
Yeah.
literally go to look up something that like I was showing somebody her and I was like, "Oh, I was telling somebody about her because I just thought she was beautiful and she has charisma, right?" And
She does,
so
and that's
I
what
was
drew
gonna
me in.
yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna share her with someone and I go to look at it and I'm like, she blocked me. Like she was mad at me for just sharing like a victim story. And I wasn't
Wow.
saying it about her, I wasn't saying she was doing anything wrong, I just was sharing that, and that's how it started with me, and then when I saw her on, Hotep Jesus one time, I remember just being like Hotep said something so nice to her, and she's like, "Oh, Hotep, you don't even know. I don't even need you guys. I've got this thing rolling." And I just thought, or I think he said something like, "The
Wow.
Hoteps have really been standing behind you, haven't you? Or haven't they?" And she's like, "Yeah, but I don't need you guys. Like I've got this thing rolling." And I remember going, "Why would anyone say
Oh.
that?"
It's kind of revealing of the intentions at that point. It's sorta like,
And
"Oh, you're here to climb a
this was
social
a
ladder."
long time before. This was a long time before. And so
Sure,
I
but
just kind
she
of had my peepers on her. I was watching her.
but even still, like, a long time before, like, if she was Eliza Blue, that's a fake name, which only
I
existed
know.
for so long, and it's one of 5.
Does
One
anybody
of
know what
5.
she's doing now? I mean, everyone that I know that knew of her has been blocked by her.
Yeah, I'm blocked by her, I don't really pay attention at
Yeah.
all,
I just was curious if you knew.
I have an alt account that I could look her up, but again, I think she's she lost about 50,000 followers, and that's about it. I don't think really she's not getting invited to anything anymore.
Right.
So, that's
Well, and
good.
she'd be scared to death to show up. She's got way too many people that would be at the same events that would call her out probably.
I'd like to think so, but there is a bunch of people that I was hoping would sort of stand up to her at the time that didn't.
Mhm.
And that whole thing with Tim Pool was really super annoying, how he's like,
And
"Oh,
Shane,
we're the
yeah.
problem, and, like, this isn't happening, it's all a big PR campaign against her." I'm like, "Oh, that's not fair." Um,
Yeah,
so
everybody
that
doubled
annoyed
down
me.
until, who was it? Was it Vice or
It was actually The Hill, I think.
that wrote that
On
long
No,
what was it called? I forgot the name
was
of it, but they wrote that really long, article that just talked about her past and the changing of the names and all of the stuff.
Yeah,
It's
actually, it might have been
interesting.
Vice, actually. It might have been Vice. It was a it was a publication that we weren't expecting it to come from. That's as much as I remember. And I'm like, oh,
Right.
they actually did a decent article here and got the facts right. It was that big long one, long before Shane Cashman did his
Yes.
novel.
Yes.
And I feel bad for Shane because, he's like, I don't know, because I was in that position too where I was friendly with her, I was believing her stuff, but like faced with all of the evidence, it was
Mhm.
clear to me that it was a lie. And I'm not sure how he could still go through with his job as a
Right.
journalist and write what he wrote. I don't know. It's just very hard to,
I
because
do
he
think
seems like a
sometimes
nice
people
guy.
get shielded from information though too. I don't know. Who knows? I've been
Who knows?
caught by some people before that I've had to take videos down because I no longer agreed with the way that they operated. It just happens sometimes, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I
That
mean,
but
yeah.
it's really common in the charity world. And I'm always telling people, go look up people's 990, their IRS forms, they're public. Go to guidestar.org and you can see everything that they've been doing. They're supposed to report.
Oh,
And that's how I caught
guidestar.org?
it's called
Is that what?
guidestar.org.
Because my mother called me the other day and she's like, "Oh, talking about a specific charity. I won't mention them." But I was like, most of that money goes to admin. Doesn't go to the ground there. And then there's also there's evidence of sort of abuse going on there as well, which is being covered up and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, you're funding that. So I'm like, "Ugh, pull your money out of there."
That's why I was so
Guidestar.org, did you
vocal
say?
about Sound of Freedom, because I knew from looking at Tim Ballard's 990s for Underground or Operation Underground Railroad, I was like, this is ridiculous. He's got his wife was making, I don't know, 150,000. He was making 300 and something thousand. He had a brother-in-law there and one other family member. And then they also gave a considerable amount of money each year to the Nazarene Fund, which anyone else reading it would just be like, "Oh, that's nice. They're giving it to a church or something, right? Nazarene." But I've learned from my work in that world that what they do, I watched a man stand on a podium in front of hundreds of people saying, "I don't take a penny out of this charity." And I looked up their
Mm.
990s, and he didn't technically take a penny, but his company did take $300,000 a year. So and that's
I
the
didn't,
part
but my company did.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
this is what I caught, like, to me, that's what it looked like that, Tim Ballard
Yeah, I
was
didn't
doing,
even know.
and he
And
had
so this
spent
is
Go ahead,
sorry, that's so the whole Sound of Music thing is
Sound of
sorry, Sound of
Freedom.
Music.
That's okay.
Sound of Freedom. Because I haven't seen it. It wasn't released here, and I wasn't willing to pirate it. But I haven't seen it. So is it, this is the story of Tim Ballard, right? And so
Mhm.
his story doesn't check out either?
So there's I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know anything. All
Mm,
I can go on are the facts that I could see. And just as someone that I think really I was talking to Carrie Smith about this on my
I love
show the
Carrie,
other
she's
day.
beautiful.
So amazing. And I was saying, why don't people go one step deeper? So, for example, most people would look at that 990 and go, oh, well, you have to pay the people that work there. That, yeah, some of them are family members, but you trust your family members. I could see that. But they didn't see the Nazarene. And then you don't know what are some of the other ones. One of them was to Glenn Beck's company or Glenn Beck's charity. And Glenn Beck is the one that, launched him. And I saw so much just to me, it's shady. And
Glenn
I don't
Beck,
want any part of
yeah.
it.
Don't know what to think about Glenn Beck either. I always thought he was kind of a loser. But
Just based on
then
what he
I
looks like or
no, 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 not from what he looks like, just how he carries on. But I don't know, I just never really got into his shtick, but there was a lot of stuff said about his charitable work, and I'm like, oh, okay, that sounds good.
Right.
But is that all it's cut out to be, or is it just because I know he's
I
very
would bet
wealthy?
anything it's not. No offense, Glenn, but I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I know
not
he's
feeling any of those
extremely
guys. I
wealthy.
think birds of a feather flock together. And that's why I left that whole world, because I had
Mm,
founded a charity with 2 other people. And I'm not even going to go into that,
okay.
but it is interesting. And then when I looked up Nazarene Fund, just to finish the story, then I see that he is the organizing member of it. And again, he's paying himself, and he also had like some what was it called, CrossFit gym that he had purchased for $700,000, and I'm like, what does he need a CrossFit gym for?
Right.
Like it's nuts.
Because I guess it's like you need to divest the wealth, otherwise you lose your charity status, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can't. I think that this is why the Church of Scientology has so much property,
Right.
because if they can't have it in liquid money,
Right.
because they'd
But a
lose their.
lot of them
Is it?
have shares in things. So
I
what's
don't think that
that? Maybe they can't
counts.
have cash, but they can have
They can't have cash. Yeah.
shares. They can have values in companies. I don't know. Or maybe they were gifted and they hadn't done anything with them yet. I don't know. But
There's like when it gets to shares and bonds and stuff, it's kind of like you're dealing with funny special money at that point. It's not. It's kind of like it gets weird, doesn't it? Because it's like, oh, it's not quite the fiat thing. It's a little bit
right,
different. Yeah,
right.
it gets confusing from that point.
And then
So yeah,
I had one other thing, and these were all the reasons why I started just going public against it. And I got called a pedophile. I was
oh my
telling Carrie
gosh,
this thing. Yeah, they were like, you must be a pedophile if you're against this movie. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to
oh,
share with you that this guy is not above board. And I was giving all the proof that I had. And
mm,
and the last one that I thought was really strange, and I haven't really spent enough time looking into it, was that Tony Robbins, for his 60th birthday, raised $18 million for Tim Ballard's foundation. However, and this was in 2020. However, I didn't find it in their 2020, 2021, or 2022 990s. And
uh-huh.
you're supposed to report within 2 years. They give you some time. And so I just thought that was really odd too. And that's a lot. That's a big fundraiser. That's not a
That's a
little one.
big lump sum,
That's a
and
huge
that's a
one.
big guy.
And yeah, he's like a giant.
He is.
And that's it was I looked on Anthony's and I looked on Tim Ballard's, and I couldn't find in their top 2, neither one of them had an $18 million event. So I thought that was really
Mm,
strange too. But who knows? Maybe they broke it into pieces and divvied it up between people or something. I have no idea.
wouldn't that be convenient? I'm
I
so
mean, I don't know, but
skeptical.
I'm so
I'm very
suspicious now.
jaded. Like,
Yeah.
I'm super suspicious of stuff now, and especially since the Eliza Blue stuff. And like you said, you got called a horrible.
Yeah.
I
Just
can't
because I
believe
was warning
someone would.
people. And you know what, Daniel? Literally like 2 weeks ago, he had to step down from his own charity, like 2 weeks after they made all the money on the thing. So he had to step down from his own charity, nobody knows why. And now the Mormon
Mm,
Church has, denounced him, and there's people reporting that he's broken up several marriages, there's all kinds of issues, there's hidden things. Yeah, it's crazy.
it's also because, like, and I know a lot of the thing people will fall back on the, oh yeah, but like people are just attacking him because he's over the target. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
that can be
That goes to
true
the
at
psyop
times.
thing.
Yeah, it does. It does, and it's so hard to know what is real anymore because you think, okay, what they're telling me here is obviously a lie, but then there's like this double bluff system going on where even the alternate news that you're being fed is also secretly a lie fed by the same crew,
Right.
and you're thinking you're on the opposing side, but like you're actually not. And I'm not explaining myself very well, but I feel like there's so many different psyops going on right now.
Oh,
Like
I
I
think
almost
that's
don't.
all there is, especially when you look at any of the big accounts. Um, you are not it's to me it's not even hard anymore. It used to be hard. Now I know through the law of correspondence, or micro and macro, everything, it's like a hologram. Anything, if you cut a piece of holographic film and you run light through it, even though it's little, it's the full picture, right? And that's exactly how humans are. So if you catch them lying on little things, you absolutely will catch them lying on big things. And
Yeah.
and it is just who they are. And if you're around certain people, and I get it, I've been around people I shouldn't have been around, or people who I now suspect are not above board. But I also got away from them as soon as I realized that, right? And
Yeah.
so to me, it's real obvious, but I give people so much grace. Like, I get that humans are so fallible and they can be trapped in things so easily. Really good people like you did with Eliza.
Yeah, yeah, and I got trapped in that, and do you know what's sad? Like, because I even saw towards right before it all blew up, there was an incident
Yep, there always
where
is.
she went crazy at a reporter, Katie Herzog,
Mhm.
and Katie was really just asking a basic question,
Mhm.
and at the time, Eliza came back and she was like, "Oh well, I'm not cool with you asking me these questions and all that stuff." And then all of a sudden, I watched the slew of people go after Katie, calling her a pedophile and all this
Yeah.
horrible stuff. And I'm like, oh, like, okay, I can see why certain people might say this sometimes, but you're going after just anyone now. And it's sort of that rubbed me the wrong way. But because it wasn't her personally, I didn't blame her for it. But then she was very much encouraging that sort of thing, because then I found out later she would retweet that sort of stuff, and she had big accounts like Mike Cernovich retweeting her a lot, which is
Mhm.
what got her, um,
Yep.
even one of my tweets once, I was like, oh, supporting her one time. She retweeted it, then Mike retweeted it. Then all of a sudden I had like 400 new followers. I'm like, wow, this is how she is. This
Yeah.
is how she's doing her thing. She's just trying to be around the biggest people so that she can suck off the attention. That's the worst way to put sorry, so that she could
And so did you meet her on Twitter?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Was that yeah, it has to have been on Twitter. But we spoke on, like, her locals account a few times, like, face to face and stuff, and so we had a few conversations, and
Mhm.
we had a bunch of DMs and that. So but, like, it's weird how you can have all these sort of you can feel so connected to someone and also protective of someone that you've really never met.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know.
I just
I
I
that's
I
that
mostly like everyone. I mean, if she wanted to talk, I would talk to her, but I would definitely have questions. And I think a lot of times people don't want to answer questions.
I think, yeah, I don't think she would be prepared to answer any question. I mean, at this point, it'd be a complete destruction of her entire facade
Mhm.
to do that. It'd have to start something like, "Okay, hi, my name's Eliza Morthland. I'm from,
Yeah.
Cordova, Illinois. This is that." And, you'd have to start from the beginning, with a whole new, brand new person.
Sure.
Um,
Which you
so
can.
that's kind
Anybody could,
she
you know?
can.
Yeah.
She can, but she still goes by well, I noticed she just goes by Eliza, so
Okay.
maybe that's wise. Anyway, there's, I've jumped around a little bit because, obviously just, chatting with you is just very natural and easy and great. I just wanted to show you one thing because I know I put up that tweet earlier of my
Mhm.
friend with the MK Ultra thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And then
right.
we
We
had
got off.
the we that's fine, but then we had this card character, spray up a bunch of people. And now, for the longest, because he was just let out of psychiatric care, as far as I understand, he's
Mhm.
jacked up on olanzapine or some sort of antipsychotic, and he'd legally purchased a firearm, like basically on his way out of the hospital. Not exactly like that, but pretty much like he'd just been in psychiatric care, and then the legal system allowed him to purchase the thing, and that's how it was. So, like, I don't know how that ties into the whole gun control stuff, but I know they're really, really pushing it, and I know they try it every single time. But it's just like, I
I used to
think,
fall for all of it. All of it. I
yeah,
believed everything that I saw, but after COVID, and then rewinding and looking through 9/11 and rewinding and looking through different things in the past and then understanding the Operation Paperclip, and I I just I literally
well,
feel like it's all scripted. Do you ever see the movie
it
Wag the
does
Dog?
feel. No, I heard of it, but I haven't
Okay.
seen it. No.
It's
I'm actually probably
so
gonna watch that now tonight.
perfect. It's so perfect. To me, that's real. They want you to think it's a movie, but it's really
Yep.
what's happening.
Well, I hear there's all these stories about, how he had voices in his head and all this sort of stuff, and I wanna show you something very, very frightening that I found.
Okay.
Because I've heard where everyone hears about these stories about voice to skull technology.
Mhm, mhm,
It's sort of like, oh, we can plant your own voice inside
mhm.
your own head. And
Right.
there's been a bunch of kooky characters over the years that have made claim to this technology existing, but
Mhm.
because they're such kooky characters,
Right.
the information hasn't gone anywhere. They're usually selling a book or they're up something, and it's like, oh, okay, could you just tell us a story without selling something, please? However,
But
we
didn't
found
they use it in the Iraq war?
we don't. Well, how do
'Cause
we
I th
know?
yeah,
How do we
I was
know?
thinking there was a government, disclosure on it, but I could be wrong. Because I felt like there was that
Really?
one piece that we had, but I wasn't positive. I've talked to many people that
Possibly.
think that it's happening to them. But
Yeah, right. Because there's a video that might validate what they're saying here.
okay.
Because there's a guy, and I've never seen this in action before. I've only heard it described, and it sounds
Mhm,
plausible in description.
mhm.
So I wasn't writing it off as a possibility.
Sure.
But there is a university professor, I think it is, college professor. And where is my sorry, I've got like 6 screens in front of me. So
It's like my son, he always has this big
yeah.
display with all of his stuff.
Yeah, I've got like 6 and then that lights everywhere above it. It's actually quite a cool setup. And while I I tweeted a few days about how I found it interesting how just a few days after Kamala Harris started tweeting about an assault weapon ban renewal,
Right.
there's a mass shooting in Maine. Yeah, interesting that, huh? And now this guy here, I'm going to share screen, present. Oh, is it already there? I'll remove that.
I'm excited to see it.
Present. Oh, stop screen and then present. What tab is that? Info W. Yeah, here we go. Picture this. A professor, a true maestro of sound waves, has concocted a musical marvel that's silent to the ear but rings loud and clear in your noggin. The
Wow.
scene of this sonic spectacle, none other than a college campus, where I'm told an Eagles classic took center stage. Just imagine the students' faces, stunned, bewildered, and utterly bamboozled. Now, if a college professor can pull off this auditory illusion with just a couple of $100 and a dream, it really makes you wonder what kind of high-flying acts could Uncle Sam be orchestrating behind
Oh,
closed
yeah.
doors? Voice of God sounds like a headline straight out of my news desk. Now let's have a look at this. It took me a little bit while to understand what was happening at first
Okay.
because I didn't actually read the description. I just went straight for my ADHD went straight for the movie thing.
I'm right there with you. That's why
Yeah.
I'm always moving around and drinking my drink and
Yeah, go for the sparkly thing. What does that do? So let's have it. So it took me a minute. I was watching about halfway through, and I'm like, this is boring. I'm like, oh. So like, guys, if you're watching, if you don't get it, just keep watching, and it'll make sense.
So we can't hear this. I haven't turned it on yet. When I do, it's going to blast out a 65 kilohertz beam.
Because the wavelength is so small, it doesn't spread. Because 65 kilohertz has a wavelength like that. So it's going to be, in that sense, similar to a laser. It just comes right out as a beam. Now, how do we make that audible? Well, they put a modulation on top of the 65 kilohertz. There's a modulation. And now, here's the next thing I have to tell you. That 65 kilohertz is very high amplitude. It won't hurt you, we don't think. Okay? You certainly can't hear it, and we don't think it'll hurt you. And it's very high amplitude. And what happens when you have two sound waves like this, sound plus sound can create sound, but only at high amplitude. At low amplitude, sound waves just travel right through each other. You may be sort of familiar with this. But at high amplitude, you can create sound. So what happens in this apparatus is the audio sound, the sound that you're going to hear, is actually created in the beam, not here. And because it's created in the beam and it stays in the beam, we have a beam of sound. So let me demonstrate this for you.
So essentially, I'll pause that for a sec. He's saying we can broadcast from this speaker into the target, and it's not audible from the speaker or anywhere in transition. It's the only place it's audible is at the destination target. And here he fires it up.
Turn it on.
Watch the students' faces.
And I'm going to find the piece of music that we like.
Yeah.
You may not like it.
The Eagles. You like the Eagles? Okay, good. Oh, we have a friendly audience this year.
I think they're just saying it to make us feel better.
Right. All right.
About that quality.
It's worth the $2,000. It's not our money. Now, the sound that you're hearing is being created in this beam. It almost sounds like it's coming from your head. So let me try to scan the whole audience here so everybody gets to hear this.
He can't stand
Absolutely remarkable. Pete, are you getting it? Let's try to one more thing. Let's try to bounce it off the wall. Raise your hand if you can very clearly hear it. I'm going to try to bounce it off the wall. Look at where the hands are raised.
Wow. I mean, it's hard to obviously validate what's going on there because we aren't the students.
We can't know. Right.
Hearing. But it's very clear from the reaction of these kids and that the professor there, he seems very genuine, that's something that's really going on, that he's capable of pulling that off with a few $100 and a little do like thing, like in a college campus. So imagine what DARPA and the Uncle Sam has got up their sleeve, you know what I mean?
And every Navy SEAL I know says we're 20 years behind knowing what they're capable of, at least.
Yeah, I hear it's 20 years, 50 years. Some people even say, oh, no, we're 100 years behind. Oh, hold on. I don't know. But we are certainly behind in terms of what we have in the domestic market compared to what they have military capability. They are certainly decades ahead. And we know this now from back, like when we've got historical footage back from lunar missions and stuff like that are in full high definition. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Full high definition, because the camera equipment that they used back then was so good. Also, film was it's a little bit tricky because film was always a superior thing. But they've always had just the best stuff. And so I just sort of like when I saw that clip.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It's fascinating, right? Because it sort of takes it from being like, that's a very interesting story. I can believe it might exist to there's a real application of it right there.
Yeah. And one of the things that I'll share with you that I think you're dead on, I used to produce movies. I worked with my daughter. I managed other kids. I sat for hours in private lessons from my daughter for acting. One of the things that drives me crazy is extras in movies. They literally have no idea how to react. If you really watch them, if you're watching a Marvel movie and they're at a party, like everybody is like buzzing and it doesn't even just look real. Like nobody looks like they're really at a party. Everyone looks like they're excited to have their conversation, right? It doesn't seem real. That looked real to me. Now,
Right.
when I watched the Uvalde news and all of the interviews, I was like, this doesn't look genuine. And then like
Something odd, isn't it?
even some of like when the Uvalde thing happened, I was like, okay, you're gonna tell me. So this woman she's standing in front of the whatever schoolhouse or the courtroom or the courthouse, wherever they're making announcements. And she goes, we just heard a mother screaming at the top of her lungs that she's lost her child. It was midnight. And I'm like, you cannot tell me that this woman did not know until just then that her children were not given back to her. Like it just, it's just little things like that. My producer, like you have to watch continuity when you are, and the continuity was always off on all these stories.
And that's the key with all of it. There's always a continuity error, like a glaring one.
It'd
And
be
then
so
it gets
hard
swept
not
over,
to have
and
one.
Snopes will come out with an article. Once people start talking about it, Snopes will get on it and they'll be like, fact check. No, this really didn't happen. But in their description, they'll describe how it actually did happen, but with a language that insinuates that it didn't. It's like, hold a minute. You just said it was false.
Yep.
You've classed this as a false statement, but you proceeded to explain how it actually did happen.
You get it on a technicality.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
And
Yeah,
then
no,
other
that's
times
really
I'll just
cool. Have you ever heard of Phoenix Enigma?
No.
He does all the Isaac Cappy stuff.
No. Is this a
Okay.
name I have to
That's a
look up?
rabbit hole I went down a long time ago because that was like the first time that I started hearing about the child sex trafficking and all this pedophilia and stuff. And there's this guy
Enigma.
named
Is it
Phoenix
Phoenix
Enigma,
Enigma?
and he was on Sean Atwood's show. And he has an extensive website that goes through literally minute by minute. And it's a long story. I'm not going to I can't even come close to explaining it. But if you get a chance, look for Sean Atwood's interview with him because it's unbelievable. He
I'm
met
keeping
his
some
wife
notes on
through
this
it,
stuff, yeah.
and his wife and him were both researching it. He was researching it because he was there on that same road where he supposedly got killed. And he's like, I've been riding that road in the mountains for years. He goes, if there's an accident, there's a backup. I did not have a backup. There was I was there hours after and I drove by and like all this stuff. So he had his feelers up. Well, then he started researching, and the more he researched, the more it was a mess. And then there's this woman that he ends up marrying that she also is researching because she was with Isaac the last week, supposedly. This is all allegedly, but it was the most fascinating story because she was sharing to me the most fascinating piece about your video you just showed was that Isaac kept saying like, they're messing with me. I can hear things. They can get into my head, all this kind of stuff. And she believed him, but she could never hear anything. They were in the car going to get something to eat, and all of a sudden the music was just blasting so loud. And she claims that she went to turn it down. And so when she went to turn it down, it was still loud. And he goes, she's like, what's going on? Well, like the music won't turn down. And he looks at her and he goes, you can hear that? Because usually
that feels,
I
I
know.
feel yucky about that.
Isn't it crazy? And that was to me, the most powerful part about the interview, based on what you were just sharing. I mean, it had a lot of really great points in it. It's an amazing interview.
This is something like it's frightening. Like fortunately, I've never had voices in my head. Like we all have our inner thoughts.
Sure.
There's but it doesn't come in an intrusive
I don't know.
way.
Haven't you ever heard like your mom call your name when she didn't? Or a teacher call your name, or a coach, or
oh yeah, I mean
like you thought you heard somebody call your name and nobody said anything.
The problem with my name is that it's in the top 6 percentile of common names.
Yeah, John,
so
Dan,
there
okay.
usually is someone calling for a Daniel.
Right.
But I do know what you mean. Right. There have been occasions where it's like, yeah, you hear it for sure, and
doesn't scare me at all. I literally think the greatest thing about the journey that I've had spiritually is I am absolutely fearless, and I believe so much of this is demonic technology.
Yeah. Well, my mom was saying this. She was going on for years and years about demonic stuff in the media and in demonic imagery and stuff in
Music.
films and
Yeah.
even stuff like the London Olympics, the 2012
Yes, did you see
London
it?
opening ceremony. Yeah, I watched it several times just to study it. And I'm like, you were trying to do something weird here. This wasn't a mistake. And my mum described it to me because I hadn't seen it because I wasn't interested. And then she's talking to me on the phone. She says, the whole thing is full of Illuminati symbology. And I'm like, why? What do you mean? She's like, oh, there's triangles and stuff. I'm like, well, so it's a
She
strong
was
shape.
so
So I was
far
like
ahead.
writing it all off. And then I turned it on. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God.
Mhm.
She's not kidding.
Yeah.
It's full. It's from start to finish. It
Mhm.
is fully, and it's dark, and it seems just evil.
Oh,
Just for no
100%.
reason. So unnecessary.
100%.
Um,
The children
there
in
was
the
a
beds, and it's just so
and the
creepy.
big creepy
Like
ghoul that's
virus.
hanging over them. Yeah.
The Reaper.
What was right? And this
And
was
they're giving
before
them
all the COVID
shots,
stuff.
and
This was
it's
before COVID as
the
well,
whole
years
nanny
before.
state, the whole nanny state thing.
I
Yeah,
saw an interesting question by Daniel here. Are you familiar with the effects of ultra low frequency on humans? Nausea, dizziness, headaches, paranoia, hallucinations. Very nice. I think that's kind of you were just sort of describing
yeah.
your
Well, and it's interesting because I've had 2 people on my channel that are just fascinating. One's name is Jordan Joseph, and the other one is Jerry Marzinski. Jordan literally spent 35 years looking at UFO abductions, people who have been abducted by UFOs,
I'm
and
fascinated with this.
oh my gosh. So you should interview him. He's a really nice man.
So
He
what was his name again?
It's Joseph Jordan or Jordan Joseph. Those people with those double first names, I literally can't remember them. I think
That's
it's
okay.
Joseph Jordan.
I'll try both.
And so he founded he literally spoke at all the UFO things. He was like the most highly respected guy. He worked with NASA or whatever it was in Florida. And so long story short, he after interviewing people countless times about the crafts that they were seeing, he finally is like, why aren't we interviewing the people about the actual, abduction, or what did the aliens look like and all this kind of stuff? And so they started interviewing people on that, because at first they were only interested in the actual craft. How big was it? What did it look like? And they were following him with that. He interviewed people for something like 27 years until one day he realized that all of them had negative abductions. They were all horrifying, bad, not
So
good.
too traumatic to speak of in detail, you mean? Is that why they
Well,
were sort
and
of blocking a
what
lot
he
of it?
realized was one guy said, "Oh, well, I rebuked them in Jesus's name, and they disappeared."
Oh,
And then he started asking people,
you
"Well,
mean the
have you?"
alien or the
Yes.
the
Yes.
encounter?
Yes. The entity. And so
Interesting.
he came to believe, after years and years of doing it,
It's
that
a demonic
it was
thing.
demonics. And it was demonic technology, and that people would receive and embrace it because it was exciting and science and all that kind of
Right.
stuff.
So
The
this does track with actually a lot of the lore that goes around with that there are genuine abductions, there's genuine ET, and that there is now I don't know. I do have beliefs though, but then there's also the notion that half of the abductions are done by government, and it's nefarious. Or then there's also this other section as well, which is like, oh, it's demonic and dark, and like, oh, okay. So it's sort of like it's hard to
his
know
stories are
what to think.
amazing. You should watch it. I've had him on twice, and it was amazing. And then Jerry Marzinski, same thing, only in the mental health world. He was in the largest mental health institution as a therapist in Georgia, and it's like got a 300-acre deal, building after building. Certain buildings they weren't allowed to go into, and he, after something like 20 years, he realized, wait a minute, they taught us that hallucinations are what's wrong with people with schizophrenia. And people with schizophrenia only have bad hallucinations. They don't ever have good ones. And when we
Right.
learned about hallucinations
cousin's
could
got it.
be airy-fairy, a wonderful dream queen shows up, or, a purple bus, or, really bizarre things like when you're on drugs. But these were always bad, never good, always mad at them, always trying to get them either to take drugs or to get off their drugs, very
Or to
suicidal
hurt
things, stuff
people
like
or
that.
yeah.
So he started asking them questions. He started questioning the people, saying, well, what are the voices saying? Can I talk to the voice? And he wasn't supposed to do this. Like, he just was like, this is wrong. Like, something's up with this, right? And so somehow, long story short, same ending where Jerry, or he's talking to one of these people, and he asked them about the Bible. And they're like, we don't want to talk about the Bible.
Ooh.
And there was this crazy effect, right? And then he's like, well, can I read Psalms 32? And they would go crazy. They hated it. And so he has come to believe that they're parasitic in they're parasitic entities that are unclean,
Yeah.
not
I mean,
hallucinations.
and this is the thing, like, because as soon as you start mentioning in the open that you can hear stuff in your head,
Yeah.
that's grounds for involuntary committal. So,
In Australia or
yep,
in the US? Because I didn't know
both.
that if it was true in the US.
I think it is, yeah. I
Oh,
think it
okay.
is in certain
I knew
states of
I
the
knew in
US.
the US they hold you for 3 days if you say that you're suicidal, but I hadn't heard the other.
I believe there is, and I don't know if I think it might be state by state, and I obviously don't know for sure, so I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Someone
Yeah,
might
yeah.
correct me on that, but as far as I know, it is grounds for voluntary committal. I think in Maine. I think maybe in Maine it is, but like I'm not sure. But I believe it is here too. Um, Fortunately, that's not a situation I've ever been in, but plenty of people around this neighborhood have. Let me tell you.
Yeah, yeah.
I live in a kind of a crazy neighborhood that used to be kind of like it's an old strip mall from back in the day. Um, it's still a little bit crazy, but it's been a bit it's been gentrified now,
Right.
and it's
Right.
there's a bit of a mix of everything. There's like I wouldn't call them celebrities, but a lot of the media figures that we have in Australia live around this area, and then
Mhm.
there's also some of the old timer. Like, it's a big gay neighborhood as well, so there's a lot of that going on, and it's just like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a mix of everything. I actually quite love it here, but it can be a bit in your face sometimes. It's the most densely populated suburb of the country.
Oh,
So,
wow.
but I got this beautiful view of the city and that, and I can walk just right down to the harbor in a couple of minutes. So
Oh, how
it's
beautiful.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really great. I'm lucky, but
And then you don't have to worry about those huge spiders that I see in Australia.
well, they come in every now and then, but I
They
mean,
do? I'd be spraying lavender everywhere.
I used to have I used to really hate spiders. Like, I used to really have a hard time with it, even little ones. But now, no problem. I'm not
Mhm.
sure how I grew out of that.
The little ones don't bother me, but I think if I saw one as big as your face, it would freak me out.
I would freak out if they were on the screen, like on a just looking at them on a
Oh,
television.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like a proper arachnophobia,
Right.
like a proper phobia. But I got over it, and I didn't go and seek professional help for it or anything. I just got over it.
Good job.
I think was living on my own and having to kill them. So,
Yeah, you grow
but
up quick.
Yeah, well, you have to sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
no,
wild though. The whole voice to skull thing. I had one
it
lady on my channel that was just tortured by it. Absolutely
well,
tortured by it.
this has
And I
shifted my position a little bit. Like, it's really moved the dial for me because it's moved me from going from like, oh, it's possible to
Mhm.
it's likely.
Mhm.
I now think it's likely, which
Oh
is a
yeah.
huge step from that's a world of difference from possible.
I
Now
think
that I
that's
can
what the
see
only
this,
thing good about whatever this Armageddon is that people are talking about is it is really truly more apocalyptic. It's an unveiling and people are awakening to things, right? That are going to make their lives better once they do. Don't you feel better knowing that oh, this could actually be, you know, demonic spirits doing things and it's
oh, it
very
would be so
possible.
much easier if we
Yeah.
could have the information and know that yeah, like this is something you won't be fooled. You can't be like,
Mhm.
um, but then it's sort of like with the voice to skull stuff, it's sort of like how because I've seen another tweet by the same guy, Game Tech Politics, who was like, they're using AI to mimic your own voice so that
Yeah.
so it doesn't seem like an intrusion.
Mhm.
So like it's so that it can match seamlessly in with your other internal thoughts. Now someone said, as Ax said before, I'm sorry, ASCII lies. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. He says, apparently not everyone has the inner dialogue voice. So,
Well, and see, that's the thing, like, because I've
I don't
spent
have.
so many years meditating, I meditate every day. And I started out just like open meditating where I would like I would just think of my eyes as like this theater, right? And I could see, can I see anything? And if I didn't see anything, then I'd try to hear something, right? And if I didn't hear anything, I'd try to feel something. And I just kind of rotated around. And I eventually did get to a point where I saw tons of stuff. Like it was insane the stuff that was downloading. I couldn't stop it sometimes. And then I was talking to a friend of mine and he's like, man, that's so crazy. I literally, all I hear is music. And I was like, I've never ever heard music. Like that's so cool. So I think
Hmm.
it's also probably just kind of dependent on who we are, what our gifts are, what we're good at,
Yeah.
whether we can actually hear things or not.
Just common note of Jason Burmis, another
I've
guy.
heard of his name, but I've not seen any of his stuff. I have
I
not
haven't
seen
heard of
any of his
him,
stuff. There's
but
so
I'm
many
gonna look.
great people. Like I love listening to all of the different people. And even if I ultimately end up disagreeing with them, everyone has these incredible nuggets.
Oh yeah, and like I love a good story, even if it's not true. But like, yeah, I love a good story. But yeah, I'm willing to sit down and listen to pretty much anything. There's not much that I will say, "I'm not willing to listen to this." Like,
Right.
even if I think it's nonsense, I will hear it out to the end, take it on board. Even if I take it on board as nonsense, I'm still taking it on board and keeping that information.
Yeah.
What I do with it is a different matter, but I'll never really shut someone's story down. That's you can't do that. It's just
It's
not
their
fair. You
truth.
gotta
I mean, it may not be your truth, but it's their truth. I will say though that I've studied and spoke with so many SRA victims, which is for people who don't know, satanic ritual abuse victims, and many of the people who have been satanic in that kind of abuse are MK Ultra victims
Mm,
and Monarch victims. There's different kinds. There's you know sexy beta kitten, there's different types of it. There's the super
right.
soldiers,
The
they're all
Manchurian
MK,
candidates.
they're all different. But this is another thing that really has me more strongly believing in a Christ, in a a spiritual battle. And I don't even think of it as a battle. To me, it's like once you know that it is done, it is done. So I guess maybe that's where I get my fearlessness. But the only people that the people I know that have been able to pull programmers out and free them, or pull out these people from SRA and free them, is through Christ. Like, it's all deliverance. And even the UFO guy, he had so many stories about people who have been abducted and abducted and abducted, but once they rebuked it and they were delivered from it, or they started, just bringing more God in, they didn't even have the abductions anymore.
That's
And I
really
mean, I just think
fascinating.
that's powerful.
It's fascinating, and I'm not like, I have heard. The only times I've heard Christ invoked into the UFO lore is when people are attempting to
Protect themselves.
well,
Pre-protect.
sort of saying this is ordained by Christ. This story,
Oh.
he approves of it, and like he's like this. He created them too, and it's
I would be like,
that's
which Christ?
yeah. And so
Is
what?
this a
That's the
false
only
Christ?
time
Which one is this?
the only time I've really ever heard of it being invoked into the story.
Right.
Because usually it's not even a case that, like, generally it's people that don't even think religiously at all that are
Right.
describing things in a different sense. Because often the people that are religious, they'll interpret these people directly without being confused. They'll say it's a demon or an angel. And so that's how they'll see things. And then someone else might see that exact same thing and
And
interpret
see
it
it
as like,
played
well,
in.
this is a UFO.
Yeah.
But
Or an
excuse me.
Arcturian, or,
Yeah,
an Archon, or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, Anunnaki or whatever they call them.
Exactly.
But I think the reason, and I suppose I should probably explain why, and because I don't really know what I think the whole hubbub about Armageddon. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to look at. Is basically Colonel Douglas McGregor mentioned it. You know Colonel McGregor?
Mm-mm.
He is a guy from he's retired now, but he was back in the US Army like years ago. But he's frequently on the do you watch shows like Redacted with
Mm-mm.
Clayton Morris and Ellie? Anyway,
Mhm.
he was on Tucker Carlson recently as well.
Mhm.
And all he's talking about is, I'm just trying to find the actual, here's Doug's tweet. Okay, yeah. Here's what he says.
Okay.
And this is a guy that gives a lot of in-depth. So he goes on programs like Redacted and stuff, like news programs that he's been doing a lot of like reporting on the Ukraine war and stuff like that. And so
Right.
he's kind of like he
Giving the
seems to know what he's
military
talking
the
about.
expert opinion. I have a friend
Yeah,
that
like
does that for SWAT stuff. He gets invited every time there's a school shooting or whatever.
Right. Okay. Well, so here is Doug's tweet. Here's what he said. Avoiding Armageddon at this point is going to be very difficult. Joe Biden reassured Benjamin Netanyahu that if Hezbollah attacks in the north, we should commit our aid power and other forces in the area to ease the burden on Israel. Now, I've really avoided getting into the talk about this war because it's so nuanced. It's the oldest conflict in recorded history that I know of. Between humans anyway. You know what I mean? And it's something that I don't think I could ever fully grasp enough to have an opinion that's not going to totally upset everyone. But what I can do is look back and go, well, geopolitically, this is not good. This is obviously this is hate in another corner of the planet where we've already got so many pockets of heat going off. And what he says here
How
is,
do we avoid Armageddon?
hold on, can you hear him say that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just play this clip.
How do we avoid Armageddon with a president and a Congress that wants to spend a fortune fighting other people's wars?
Well, in this case, it's going to be very difficult. the Times of Israel announced that apparently President Biden had reassured Prime Minister Netanyahu that in the event that Hezbollah attacked in the north, that we would commit our air power and whatever other forces that we've got in the area to help defend Israel, ostensibly for the purpose of easing the burden on the Israelis of dealing with two fronts. Sounds fine, except that by making that commitment, which was evident from his speaking last night, he's essentially doing what the British did in 1914. When the First World War began, it was really a regional war. And in fact, most of the British cabinet and large numbers of people in Britain didn't see any particular reason to become excited about it. All of that was turned around within a remarkably short space of time, but ultimately Britain declared war. And when Britain became a co-belligerent, that's when the regional war involving the Germans, the Russians, the French, and the Austrians became a world war. And that's unfortunately the danger that confronts us now.
And that's does seem very like a really apt description. It does feel like we're about to see the largest continents get involved on everything. Like I get anxious when the Australian Prime Minister meets. Every single time the Australian Prime Minister meets with the American president, I get nervous because it usually means that America has made a decision that Australia is now having to abide by, and it involves people on the ground. Now, I know people haven't made any announcements like that yet, but there are whispers that there are already US boots on the ground over there. I don't know if that's true, but there's certainly a lot of assets and a lot of money going into funneling this. So you're on mute. Did I mute you? Did I accidentally do that?
Sorry. I did it because my son had a delivery.
Oh.
But yeah. I forgot what you had said. So sorry.
I pressed the wrong button. I forgot what I said too.
I got distracted.
So did I. This is so easy to
sorry
get
about
distracted.
that.
No, that's all right. I just really wanted to essentially just show
Oh, the
this
boots on the
video
ground.
because-
The boots on the ground.
Oh, that's right.
Who knows? Do I trust anything that they say? No. I've gotten to where I was reading the Bible yesterday. I'm going to read you the one verse that I was like, wow, this kind of sums up how I feel right now. It was in Romans. Hold on, Romans 4, I think. I hope if it's not here, I won't torture you with it. Yeah, it is here. Okay. It says, "For law brings about wrath, but where there is no law, there is no violation." And I think that is the duality. That is division. That is hatred. That is the laws, right? You have to do things certain ways or you're going to have the wrath. And I feel like the whole thing that's happening with I don't believe in Armageddon as much as I believe in the apocalypse. I believe more in the unveiling. I think people are waking up. I think I even had my guys from jail call me going, "Did you believe this Robert Card stuff?" And I was like, I cannot believe I'm hearing this from you. You know, they're suspecting psyops now, right?
This is what I mean. There are a lot of people, especially since in the post C19 era, we've got a lot of people from all walks now, like all the way from, and I'm not saying it because a lot of tradies are very, very smart, but a lot of them are very simple as well. They're starting to pick it up. You know, everyone's really starting to pick it up at all edges.
So awesome.
And I think the biggest problem, especially through COVID and a lot of these, is the educated class. Because I've never seen so many incredibly intelligent people be so incredibly stupid in the last 3 years. I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, these are the same people that take the Hippocratic Oath. You know, like think about it. Every single doctor takes the Hippocratic Oath. That is an oath to 4 different gods and more gods. And at the end, they curse themselves. It's absolutely crazy that educated people,
system, right?
Their very first day of being a doctor, they make this oath. Christians, Muslims, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I'm actually looking for a brand new doctor now because I had a massive falling out with my last one, and I complained about him, and then he refused to serve me.
I know more and more people that are literally healing anything that they need to heal through deep nutrition and through people who've already been through it. They're learning more
Yeah.
from them than they are their doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the last doctor I had was useless, so the problem is I need to come off a couple of medications that need titration, so otherwise
Real
I can
careful. Yeah.
Yeah. But I actually have, like, a few spares, so I can probably do that myself. But, like, yeah, I won't say
Be
too much
careful.
about
Yeah, be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah, like, well, I already
You
take
always
less
wanna
than prescribed anyway,
Yeah.
which is how I ended up with spares, but, like, yeah, it's just
So
I
getting
don't
back
like
to that verse, and then I won't
Please.
interrupt you again. I just wanna
No,
just
please.
finish the thought, and that was that if we get to a point where we become when we are smart enough to see the snare of the words of the legalistic stuff, then we won't fall into the psyops. We will see the actual things that are being played out, and they'll be so obvious. Like for me in the charity world, the places that there's such defilement, right? And for other people in the military and for other people in healthcare and other people in, pharmaceuticals. I think there's too many things happening at once. And I think that
Yep.
this class wants to hold us from knowing. And I think the
Mhm.
apocalypse, I pray the apocalypse will happen before Armageddon, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does make sense. I hear you very much, and here we go. I missed this.
Oh,
Matthew
that's
6,
cool.
7 is my absolute favorite verse in the whole Bible.
We'll have to look it up. Let's look it up. Matthew 6, 7. But I do love that when you think about if you go above law, then you're at grace and you're at faith, hope, and love and treating your neighbors as yourself, right? Which is so
Mm.
cool. All right, so Matthew 6, 7. Here we roll. When you are praying, do not use meaningless repetition as the Gentiles do, for they suppose that they will be heard for their many words. It's good.
I'm not
That's
sure how to
good.
understand a lot of the like, can you read that again? Sorry,
Sure,
I'm not
sure. So this is Matthew 6, 7. And when you are praying, do not use meaningless repetition. So don't just do it, over and over again, like repeating stuff, as the Gentiles do, for they suppose that they will be heard for their many words. So they're really impressive because they're
Oh,
doing very long prayers in front of people because
yeah, I get it.
they're so religious. And I
That's a
really
great
think that where
explanation.
there needs to be a lot more faith, hope, and love, and a lot less getting into the little itty bitty gritty things that people fight over, even as Christians.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of infighting, right? And this is a
Horrible.
lot of and my mom is not like a confrontational person at all. She hates getting into fights. And, growing up, she had a lot of people saying you're being religious in the wrong way, and, you're not doing you're not God doesn't approve of what you're doing, and it's like you're doing it wrong, and it's hold on. How do you really know? She just had a whole lot of really bossy sort of people sort of like, no, I know
And that's
better.
normal. Oh my gosh, I get
Mm,
so many comments, and I don't even claim to be a true Christian anymore, only because I'm not attached to a church because I can't find one that isn't part of the whole psyop. Like I go
yeah.
in and I'm just so like, how do you not see that the spirit is horrible? And then people will go, oh, but yeah, that's so true, Daniel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't virtue signal with prayer. Exactly. And that's like, talk about, are we not a virtue signaling society now?
Holy moly. Yes, we are. Yeah. Yeah.
Just don't judge, just be nice. And, I'm not going to fall in line just because somebody says to. It's just we're way past that. But the whole Armageddon thing, when you said that, I was like, I need to really look up the etymology of that word. And it
I
actually
don't know.
means final conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
what I understood it to mean too. Is that, I mean, my mother eventually, I think when I was a child, I asked my mum, "What does Armageddon mean?" And she says, "The war of the end of the world."
Right, right. And it's actually interesting because it's from the Hebrew word, because I wrote this down. It's 2 words, Megaddon. I apologize to all my Hebrew friends. And it actually means Mount of Megiddo, which is in central Palestine, which I thought was really interesting.
Aha, fascinating.
Yeah,
I didn't
Megiddo.
ever think to look up the etymology of the word. Not 6, 7, 6. Oh,
Oh,
you said
okay.
6, 7, my man.
So we
Didn't you
read the
say
wrong one, but we
6, 7?
like that one.
We like it. I think it fits anyway. Let's do another.
All right, let's do it. But you, when you pray, go into your inner room, close your door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. And I can attest to this. It is so cool. That is a good one, and I do love it. I like both of those though, because I like
I
short
wish I
prayers.
could have that on the screen. It's a shame that I don't have that on the screen. Oh well, but we've got it in recording now.
That's
I'm glad that
right.
we went through these.
That's right.
It's fascinating because I haven't actually read the Bible.
It's
Um,
awesome.
I mean, I've read parts of it. I've certainly read parts of it, but I've spoken to a lot of people who have read through the whole thing, and
Mhm.
they speak about so many eureka moments that they come across in
Mhm.
just with reading the text, and I think, wow, it is such a transcendent document that it would kind of be silly for me to not have a look at it at this point in my life. Like, so
Yeah.
I do. That's a project that I'm looking at doing, and I'm just reading through the whole thing. Is the thing is, I'm terrible. I hate. Like, I'm good at reading. I can read. It's just that reading a book per se is not a
I do
strength
a
of mine.
ton of
Like, I
Audible Bible on an
oh,
app.
so you
I fall
yeah. So
asleep
that
to
is
it.
the way I would do it. That is the
Yeah,
way I would definitely do it.
yeah.
And then
It's
that way I would be able to also draw upon a lot of these things and apply that to my life as well. Whether or not I even believe in the whole organized structure of Catholicism, Christianity, all that
sure.
doesn't matter. Does not matter. It's
Nope.
like I have a faith that there is something more than me, bigger than
Mhm.
me, that is the creator of such things. And I don't know what its name is, if it's a single entity or if it's like a everythingness, but there's a lot of things in these theological texts that have obviously rung true to so many people for to be existing still
Sure.
thousands of years later. They're
Sure.
not nothing.
And some of the
Um,
smartest people I know, I mean, that's their favorite book in the world. To me, like for me, it was a really, um, I like remember how you said that when Dawn died, your grandmother in 2015, that you kind of felt like she was with you. Well, it was
yeah.
right after my mom died. I was like, oh, I was, and how old was I when she died? Like I was 14 when so I was 24. I was 24 years old. It's like that age of like that so uncertainty. You don't know what you're going to be doing in your life. You're not married yet. You haven't had kids. And I started researching like where did she go? Because I didn't grow up in a religious family. And
Mm,
and so I was very much like you. It was this death that took me into studying. And then I found that Gary Zukav, The Seed of the Soul book. And then I went on to another and another. And then I met this amazing guru who we had at our company, maybe in my late 20s. And she ended up being huge. Like she's on Oprah and stuff. Her name is Byron Katie. I don't know if you've ever heard of her, but we were having a
no.
conversation and
Excuse me.
I said something and she goes, "Yes, they even say that in the Bible." And I thought, "Oh, isn't it interesting? Of all the things that she could have said they used as a benchmark, she used the Bible as a benchmark." So then
Mhm.
that made me interested in reading the Bible. And then I went into this whole Bible thing, got baptized the whole bit. But then when I went through my divorce, I was treated so horribly from the church, so horribly at the Christian school my kids went through, that I was just like, done with these people? And so then I just started reading all
Exactly.
kinds of different spiritual books. And then that took me into the Hermetics, that took me into the Kabbalah stuff, the tree. Like I researched the occult, all kinds of stuff. And then I am back at the Bible, and I find it, to me, far superior than any other. But all of those other teachings help me understand the Bible, because I think the Bible's written on so many different levels.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it's a lot of different books and scripts put together, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Over time, I think. Well, that's my
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
understanding
No, you're
anyway.
right. You're
Yeah,
right.
so that makes sense that it's certainly layered.
Yeah.
But it's something like even people that are not religious at all, even I know even atheist people, they say they're atheists, but I don't quite believe them. I believe they're fooling themselves, but they even still, a lot of like Richard Dawkins and stuff like that, they will say a lot of like they've read the Bibles and find them to be fascinating pieces of text. So
Yeah.
it's like there's something to this
Yeah.
writing here that is certainly very powerful. And yeah, it's a project that I think I will start with the audio version.
Yeah. It really
Sorry,
helps. It really helps. I think so.
Achilles
And
here
I
says,
find it so fun. It's one of my favorite things to do when I actually have extra time, and I've been forcing myself on Friday nights to make time. So
yeah.
I really get
Well,
to enjoy it.
now that I've said it out loud, I feel like it's a commitment I really need to actually do. Because people are going to quiz me on it now.
I'll do Bible study with you.
Yeah, you'll have to come back and
We'll
quiz
just
me on it.
That's what I do with my sister. I'm like, okay, let's just read through Job, and then we'll talk about Job. And Job is the tough one to start with. If you can survive Job, then you'll make the whole Bible.
Okay, great. It sounds good. The
Yeah.
audio, what is it? Achilles says I don't do the audio book things. I find I retain more things if I manually research. Yeah, I get that. I think
That's
it's
true.
really an individual thing. I think I think you're probably onto something. It's just that barrier to entry is
Yeah,
the
I
big
do
thing for
both. I
me.
mean, I've got a
Yeah.
huge pile. I've got my concordance here. I've got my vines. I've got my atlas. I've got all kinds of stuff. And
Is
then
there a version that would you recommend that I read to begin with, or just like
such a great question, because I struggle with that, because I'm finding things missing, and it's just so bizarre. What I would say is I really like the NASB, because it's easy to understand, and I find it to be really accurate. But that's the great thing about the digital Bible, is they're all there. But I went ahead and
yeah?
bought several Bibles because I'm afraid they're all going to disappear. I'm afraid that they're going to change them. I'm afraid.
And that's not an unusual thing to think, because I mean
Yeah,
these are the kind of things that these are the kind of books they burn, which
exactly.
is amazing, isn't it? That they're still here, because these are the very kinds of things that they do come after. They burn this stuff, like
Of
they did
course.
that to the Gnostics.
Hmm.
Graham Hancock goes
And all
into
the
great detail
Essenes
about
and
that.
all that stuff is missing.
Yeah, it's all
It's
gone.
Yep. Well,
So
it's
yeah,
probably in the Vatican basement.
you're
At least I hope
absolutely
so. I
yeah.
hope that they didn't burn the Alexandrian library. I hope that or library.
Well, I think a lot of the stuff that was saved from that is now in the Vatican archives, and people have always, when people ask me, what is the one place? Oh, sorry, like what is the one thing if you could have access to? Would you like? And a lot of people say Area 51 and all this sort of
Yeah.
site for it. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I would love to go to the Vatican archives with like a
A
Latin
lot of
or
security.
Latin and Hebrew, like all the translators, because I
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to understand the stuff. But I'd go there with a team,
Sure you go.
and because that would hold so many of these other secrets that you would want to discover in these other places anyway.
Oh, and there's so many. But I do believe that God reveals them to us, because when I started meditating on the word, I just started knowing things. I don't even know how I knew them. A- And not only did I know them, but I had such power and authority with them, because I believed them at my core, because I would
Right.
repeat, and I would take a verse, and I would just like repeat it in my head over and over again, and just see like how I could dissect
Yeah.
each word. And it just became really, really powerful. It does come to life. It's the best way that I could describe it. And I've had, I've had times where I've absolutely dropped DMT. I have had the weird
Oh, that's what I
cartoons
wanted to say
going.
before. Actually, when you asked me, sorry to interrupt, but
No,
like
you're good. I like it.
that got me so jazzed because I don't know how much I want to say on here. I know my mom's probably watching, but so what, mom? I've done DMT. There you go. But that is one. When you asked me before, what was one of the things that made you switch from being atheistic to a believer of some sort?
Oh, interesting.
A huge part of it was my experience with dimethyltryptamine,
Wow. See, mine was a
and it
natural drop, but
okay.
so my brain released it.
Aha. Yeah, right. Yeah, which is, and this is where from the pineal gland is
Yes.
supposedly where it's all stored.
Yes.
So you got a natural one. That's excellent. So did I, by the way,
It didn't
YouTube.
last very long. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was flashes, but it was amazing. And the colors, like you can't even describe how beautiful the colors were. And I also have gotten PEA, which is the ecstasy one. I've gotten euphoric, absolute bliss, peace beyond understanding. Like I was like, oh, that's why I was married. That's why I got a divorce. Oh, I get it. Like everything made sense. It was such a great experience because you can reach for knowing that that's possible again.
I guess the one thing that I found when I was in that experience, and I haven't done it several times. I've only done it 2 or 3 times, and then I didn't ever feel the need to sort of go back there again.
Right.
Because I felt like I sort of got from it what I
Right.
needed
That's like
to.
people that do ayahuasca.
Exactly, and it is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. So it doesn't have the monoamine oxidase inhibitors in it, so like it burns up in 10 minutes. And it's illegal, guys, so don't do it, blah blah blah. And then, this is just a story, YouTube. But when I was there in that place, in that state, I felt that felt like more realistic and real than this does. And I felt a connection with everything. And it
Wow.
was sort of like, hold a minute. You and me are the same person, just living different lives. I'm part of the tree. I'm part of the ocean. And it's like, wow, all of this stuff, like all this hippy dippy stuff. I'm like, I
It's
see it. I
real.
see it. It makes
It's
sense.
real.
That's the Hindus
Yeah.
and the Buddhists. They're all talking. I see it. I know what you're saying. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but when you said that, I
No,
was
it's
like, I have
great.
to mention this because this is a crucial part of actually why I did open my mind.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that's good. I like it.
and
That's very cool.
I certainly don't feel the need to go and take a substance to feel that again. Like I feel fairly confident that that is an existence that will be beyond this life.
Yeah.
And that when I'm there, because when I was there, it felt like all the knowledge that could be known was there available to me, but I couldn't bring it back with me. I couldn't bring any of that back. And that's good. That's how it's supposed to be. But
Right.
I have the feeling now, I have the sort of the solace that one day I will know. Because I've been a very anxious guy my whole life. I've always wanted to know how. I want to figure everything out. I want to know the answer to everything. I'm like
Yeah.
super inquisitive like that. I get very annoying to people on sometimes, but that experience really chilled me out to a large degree because I'm
Such a
like,
blessing.
because I sort of like, so one day you will know. One day it will all be there, and
Yeah.
you'll be part of everything again.
Yeah.
And so that's just how I felt. I couldn't put it in any other words than that because it goes to a place where words are really not helpful. I want to bring up something which is very sad. Rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
Wow. He's so young,
So
right?
apparently he has a heart attack. No, apparently he drowned.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he wasn't okay.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's horrible.
That's sad. We're talking about the actor from Friends, right?
That's what I
Is that?
thought. Isn't that who it is?
I'm gonna just check. Oh, he's trending. Hold on, let's have a look here.
Look at you with all
Oh,
your displays.
yeah, I have to like.
Okay, so remind
Yeah.
me, I want to ask you when you're done reading this, I want to ask you what your thoughts are about Mandela effects.
Oh, I love the Mandela effects. I get so obsessed with looking them up
Yeah.
because I've
Have you
experienced
had
a
one
number of them.
personally happen?
Yeah, but like it's sort of like it was I can't remember what it was now. I
Yeah.
certainly did have one happen, but I can't even it wasn't a big like it wasn't a big deal. Like I think what it was, I had something happen that I thought, but it wasn't like a wide. It wasn't something that happened to everyone. Like it was something that really was just specific to me. Like I thought something had happened and it hadn't happened. So it might not be a Mandela, but like there are a lot of the Mandela effects that I've looked up are just
They're just mind-blowing.
crazy. They're crazy, mind blowing stuff. Like the one of my favorite ones is the fruit of the loom.
Yeah.
Like
The
they even got in
cornucopia
touch
was
with me on
totally
Twitter.
there. I remember the
It was.
cornucopia.
I was talking about this on Twitter and they responded. Fruit of the Loom responded. They said,
Oh,
no
they did?
comment. No comment. You are so cheeky.
They're just starting
Um,
trouble.
This is very sad. I don't want to be laughing while I read this. I apologize, YouTube. But
Yeah, he's young. Man, he's
yeah,
younger than me.
Matthew Perry's died at age 54. The call was for a suspected cardiac arrest. While anything is possible, many will point out that Matthews was okay. I can't go and read all of that, which sucks because I don't know what I'm allowed to say here. So I'm not
Right,
going
yeah.
to read that.
Yeah, I wouldn't
But
either.
let's say he died of heart problems, and that's awful. I'm sorry. Rest in peace, Matt.
Man, it's crazy how
terrible.
many people are checking out.
My mum was saying this just the other day, like it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other, and they all have certain things in common,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
There you go. There you go. But the reason I was asking about the Mandela effect, because I was thinking about this with the Bible, and I was thinking, okay, I've got to get all my hard copies. Like I bought a really old concordance. I got like I said, I've got literally, there's a stack here that's like this high. And I just started ordering them all because I got panicked because I had gone into the digital Bible and there was something that was amazing. I shared it with a friend. We talked about it. Then when we went back to look at it, the wording was completely different.
Oh, no way.
And I was just like, see, this is why I need to have hard copies. I need to have hard copies. Well, then I was watching, have you ever heard of Archaics? He's got such a great channel.
No, I don't think so.
It's ARCH and then
Bring up my list.
AIX. And he's prolific. He's brilliant. He was in jail for like 20 some years. And all he did was study. And he was obsessed with calendars. And he started realizing that certain calendars didn't match up. And then why did they change to the Gregorian calendar and blah, blah, blah. Well, he had a guy on that was talking about the Mandela effect. And it's like his like big hobby is that's all he does, right? His name is
I really got to look him up then.
Shiva Shampoo. Funny name. He's got this crazy dreads that are like wrapped up here. But he was saying that he's heard of cases where not only was it changed digitally, but they somehow changed it in the book.
I've seen footage of it.
After I'd bought all the hard copies, I was like, what? And I actually thought about so the Archaics, just I'll finish and then you can.
Sorry.
The Archaics guy, his whole philosophy is that we're in a simulation and that it resets every 138 years. And that they know that it does this. And anyway, it was fascinating. But if it was a simulation, you could see where they could more easily change anything, talk in anyone's head, do, whatever. But who knows? I don't know. All I know is I stay on the Jedi team and I'm not with the Siths.
Well, that's fascinating. I've never heard that 138-year cycle stuff. And I've never heard of that name, but I've got a list of things here that I'm going to look up after this. But
well,
that is
it
one
was
of the first
so
things
crazy how I found him. So how I found him was because of the Bible. I was reading something and somebody said to me, oh, that used to say the phoenix And now it says glass and sand. And in other ones, it says topaz. And so it had all this stuff. And I'm like, why would they take the phoenix out? Right. And so then I started looking up anything that was Christian that had to do with the phoenix. And then I was sharing it on Twitter. And this guy goes, oh, have you been watching Archaics? Because he's really he calls the 138 year cycle. He calls it the Phoenix something. Maybe it's the Phoenix reset. I don't know. But anyway, it's so cool. And I could listen to him for hours. It's fascinating. And he wants to like debate Graham Hancock and, all these people, because he's like, they're wrong on this, they're wrong on that. And he has receipts for days. But I have only watched a few of them, but I loved the Mandela Effect one because they go through a list of them, which was fun because there were several that I hadn't heard before. But then when that guy was sharing that hard copy things have been changed also, that people have. And really, when you think about it, underwear is a hard copy.
It is. I'm not sure. And of course, people are going to put it down to CGI, but I've seen there's a very viral video of the Bernstein bears.
Yes.
So, and there's a guy with a copy of it. And when he walks past a certain, so he brought home this special, this object that has sort of energy attached to it, he believes, from some sort of yard sale or something. And he hung it up on his wall. And ever since he got it,
posted it,
and he walks past it with that book, he can see the word change from Bernstein to Bernstein in real time, and he's filmed it. It's on YouTube. You can look it up.
How does he do that? Oh my gosh,
it's crazy. And of course,
I don't believe anything I hear, but I do. I'm like you. I like the story.
Right. I love the story. Right. Yeah, exactly. Cause obviously we could debunk that, but it might be real. We got users being banned for naughty words is a regular in here. What have we got? If you want to lighten the mood, search what space movie came out in 1992. That would explain the voices. Hold on. What space movie came out in 1992?
Yeah, I'm trying to even think. That was when my son was born in 1992.
If this was a simulation, I'd have broken it somehow by now.
You would have hacked it.
Plug in a program. I'll find it. Not because I know anything about program, but because I don't.
It's fascinating to me. I'm open-minded. I also find it interesting that even though he clearly is not a Christian anymore, he went the opposite way. Because he was a Bible thumping Baptist when he was in prison, but as he became more educated on all the different things, it made him see repeats of certain stories, even Moses and in the little basket being pushed down the Nile. That was a repeat of an old story. That same thing happened. And there's a lot of those in the Bible that are repeats. I mean, almost every deity has been born in December 25th, somewhere between the 21st and the 25th, which is the winter solstice, right?
Right. It's all very something that I'd love to have more experience in, to sort of have a better discussion about it. You know what I mean? Because I'm still very green in it, but I've got some direction now. I'm going to certainly look up the online
I think you'll like his channel. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you ever watch Santo Bonici?
No, I'm hearing.
He's from Australia.
Is it Bonici?
Bonici. He's Italian.
Sounds Italian, yeah.
Yeah, Italian heritage, but I think he was raised in Australia. I love listening to him. He speaks 8 languages, and he's broken down a lot of the stuff in the Bible. And it's his favorite text, but he's not a Christian. But it's his favorite literary piece, and he's really well studied. But he's also a really good one to listen to or to learn from. in particular on things that a lot of Christians wouldn't want me sharing, and that is the Mazzaroth. But they talk about the Mazzaroth in the Bible, which is the zodiac. And
Oh,
so,
right.
and
Yep.
I'm a big believer in the heavens declare. I mean, there's no way that they don't mean something. The sun and the
Yeah, well,
moon, and
I've always sort of I've always had a bit of an interest in that too. Like I sort of felt like there's something to it. Not in the way that they put it out in
like,
magazines, obviously.
yeah, horoscopes
Not
and
the way
stuff.
they
Yeah,
commercialize it, but that
sure.
they do that to everything, ruin it with
Yeah,
commercial stuff.
absolutely.
Um, I
Absolutely.
think I might have to wrap it up shortly because
Okay,
it's
yeah, of
1 o'clock.
course. Thank you so much
So
for having me. It was great.
yeah, thank you very much for coming on. I'm so sorry about last time, but it's wonderful that you were able to come back. There was a few other things that I wanted to go through, but like not really. It was just filler. I really just wanted a chance to chat with you, which we have done, and it's been
Yay.
lovely. And I've
Yeah.
got some things that I certainly will be doing some homework now. Thank you
That'll
very much.
that'll be really fun. Thank
And also
you.
thank you for like you are in a way my first guest again because you're sort of my first guest on my new setup, which is so much more robust. I'm happy to have StreamYard.
Yay.
Thank you, StreamYard, for giving me the discount, by the way. It's still $700, but it's it was a discount. So and it's a lifetime discount. I complained to them
Nice.
on Twitter because I was like, "Oh, I have to pay an Australian, please."
Yeah.
So they did.
That was
And
nice.
yeah, it is.
Good
But
for
thank you
them.
very much for coming.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
I don't
Have a
have an
wonderful
outro clip
evening.
yet. You too. You too. And I will see you soon, and hopefully you can come back sometime.
Yes, I would love to. No,
Might need to
no,
quiz me on
as
the
long as
Bible.
there's no Armageddon.
No, 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 I won't do that to you again.
All right, we'll
Um,
see you later. Bye,
see you, Carmen.
everybody.
Bye. How do I get it fade to black? All right, guys. Have a great night. I don't have an outro, so here we go.